Happy Monday, girls and boys. Well, today I have a pretty fun book for you. It's called Emily's Tiger. That's Emily, our friend. Now, Emily does not actually have a pet tiger. What we're really talking about is her temper, her anger, and sometimes her being loud and her volume. Because whenever she gets angry, Emily can turn into quite a little tiger. So we're going to read her story and find out if there's anything that can help her calm her little inner tiger. Let's find out. Now, this is kind of what Emily looks like when she's angry and she turns into her little inner tiger. Not a very fun tiger to be with, right? Alright, let's start. And as always, I want to make sure that you can read the words and see the pictures clearly. Alright, that looks good. Let's start. I don't want my hair cut, Emily pouted. Emily, please sit down, Mama sighed. No! Emily growled, and then what? And then she turns into her little tiger. It looks like she ran out of the room. She gave her loudest tiger roar. Not again, Mama groaned. See, when Emily turns into a little tiger, it's really no fun for anyone around her. Come here, you rascal! Emily bounded all over the room and bounced out of the window. Oh, Emily, Mama sighed again. What are we going to do with you? See, she made quite a mess, spilled coffees, and ripped open, rip apart book, and, the rain boot and everything is all over the floor. So when she turns into a little tiger, doesn't seem like a very good thing. Well, now we have a different scenery, because now she is later at Evie's party. The clown announced, I need an assistant. Me, squealed Emily. Now, of course, Emily, just like any other children, wants to be picked. I choose Evie, the birthday girl, said the clown. Now, that makes sense because if Evie is the birthday girl, I think it sounds right for her to be chosen, right? But Emily said, but I want to be the helper, growled Emily, and now she's not getting happy again. The clown shook his head, so Emily stomped her food, and gave a huge, can you guess what she was going to do? Roar! And now soon Evie's party was in chaos. See, again, Emily turns into her little tiger because of her anger, and now the birthday party for Evie is kind of ruined. Not good, right? Oh, Emily, sighed Dad when he came to take her home. What are we going to do with you? They don't really know what to do with Emily. So then, at supper time, Dad tried to persuade Emily to eat some carrots. Now, carrot, if you have been taught or learned from your teacher, carrot is a healthy food. It's very good for you. But guess what Emily said? I don't like carrots, Emily snapped, and swinging her long curly tail, she swiped her plate right up into the air. Oh, Emily, groaned Mama. Just then, the doorbell rang. Who could be at the door? Just when Emily has made quite a mess. Well, now we're introduced to a new character. Hello, I'm here, said Granny as she pranced through the door. Golly gumdrops, it looks like a zoo in here. What's been going on? Grandma is confused. All the carrots are around, on the ground. I got upset, Granny. I don't like carrots. Emily hung her head. So she kind of knew what she did was bad, but she couldn't control it. Oh, Emily, smiled Granny. What are we going to do with you? I know. Let's go upstairs. As Daddy is cleaning up the carrots, Grandma seems to have a good idea of what to do. Now, we are introduced to a different tiger, but before you think that's Emily, that's actually not Emily. Emily is right here. So who is this? With glasses. That's Grandma. I want to share a secret with you, whispered Granny. She turned away, and when she looked back, Granny gave a loud tiger roar. Eek! Emily jumped back in surprise. No need to be scared, Pumpkin, Granny assured her. I only turn into a tiger when I want to. That way, I can turn myself into a happy tiger instead of an angry one. And happy tigers have much more fun. So now we learn that you can actually be a tiger and maybe give a really loud roar, but you're in control of when you do that, and it doesn't always mean that you need to be an angry tiger. You can be a happy tiger. So, that night, Emily dreamed about being a tiger with Granny. Together, they leaped all the way along the roofs of the cars that were parked on Emily's street. Looks kind of fun. They weren't doing any damage. And higher? Asked Granny. Emily nodded, and they leaped all the way along the roofs of the houses. Higher? Asked Granny. Emily nodded, and Granny leaped right over the moon. Emily didn't dare follow her there. See? There is something that Granny was very confident in doing, but Emily was a little scared to do. How did you do that? She asked. You'll learn. Granny smiled. So next day, have you brushed your teeth yet? Mama asked Emily in the morning. I hate brushing my teeth, said Emily. I love brushing mine, whispered Granny. Emily decided to brush her teeth to shine just like Granny's. So, looks like maybe Emily was about to roar again, but because of Granny, she thought, well, I don't know, maybe I'll try to act like Granny too. After school, Granny and Emily went to the park. Emily spotted Dalen Jones making a tent. Can I help? Asked Emily. But as she peeped inside Dalen's tent, he climbed onto her bike and began riding it through the park. Now, girls and boys, that is a mean thing because Emily never said okay to Dalen borrowing her bike. He just kind of took it and went for a ride. So, let's see what happens. Hey, give it back, shouted Emily, and she crouched down, ready to pounce. Now, we can kind of understand why she was becoming upset, but do you think she's going to become a tiger? Then she glanced over at Granny, which is right here reading her book in her tiger form. Her big paws gently held a book. She looked very relaxed. So Granny knows exactly what is going on. But she wonders if Emily is going to let her anger control her. Emily decided to relax, just like Granny. Yippee! Dalen whooped as she rode past. Emily ignored him, which is a pretty hard thing to do. But instead of getting angry, Emily decided to, you know what? I'm just going to ignore him. Dalen tried riding with no hands, getting fancy, but then he lost his balance and fell off. Wah! He yelled, getting really hurt. Now, check this out, boys and girls, because I think this is so telling of how far Emily has come. Instead of getting angry and instead of giving Dalen some mean words of stealing her bike and taking it without permission, Emily helped Dalen to pick himself up. Are you okay? She asked out of care. Granny grinned and gave Emily a big thumbs up because Emily made a very good choice. Instead of getting angry, she showed compassion, she showed love and care to her friend. I think I would have given Emily a big thumbs up too. So, is that it? Well, there's more. At supper time, Emily ate all of her carrots, just like Granny. Now she's beginning to make more and more good choices. Now, you should probably take a look at how Daddy and Mommy look, and even her younger sister, because they all look confused. Holy cow, what happened? Because Emily is making many good choices right now, and she really never did before. But that's not it. She helped Dad wash up, and she brushed her teeth without even the slightest growl. She did what she was supposed to do on her own. What an amazing choice that Emily has made. So then later on, there was a rat-tat-tat-tat-tat on Emily's bedroom door. Psst, whispered Granny. Follow me. And they crept outside. Now for the fun part, said Granny. Come on, Emily, she called as she fearlessly hurdled the fence. She showed Emily how to soar over hedges, scale the walls, and climb trees. Happy tiger or angry tiger? Asked Granny. What do you think, boys and girls? And as a happy tiger, cried Emily, and then she jumped right over the moon. And that is the end of the story. Now, boys and girls, I hope you liked the story, but I want to recap a couple of things that I thought was so important. We all have our inner tigers, don't we? Sometimes we get angry, and sometimes because we're so angry, we might even want to let out a big, loud roar. Now, the reality is, it's really not bad to sometimes feel angry or maybe even yell a really loud roar. But it becomes a problem if we can't control our anger and our volume and instead have our anger and volume control us. And that's what happened to Emily. And whenever she lets her anger controls her and she turns into an angry tiger, we see that it's not good for her and it's really not good for everyone around her. But thankfully, she learned how to control it. So, she can still feel angry, but she doesn't turn into a little tiger anymore that roars and make bad choices. So I hope you remember Emily's story and remember that it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be loud sometimes, but we need to learn to control our anger so that we don't let it control us. Alright, I hope you liked today's book and come back tomorrow. We'll jump into a different book. Alright, have a great day. Bye!